And welcome back to another video. Today we're going to look at another game I played. This is one of my really old games. I think my second game I ever played, 23rd of September 2021. I'm just going to go through it and just see what mistakes and stuff were made. E4, C5, Sicillian. You have knight C3 and knight C6. It's the close Sicillian. White doesn't want to go into main lines such as knight F3 and D4. Yeah, I play a kind of normal move. It's probably one of the main lines. I'm not 100% sure because I don't know my close Sicilian, and I didn't know it then either. I just played what seemed intuitive. So I played bishop c4 and e6 is played. The idea is to block the diagonal. And knight f3. Now, this isn't a normal move in the closed Sicilian, or maybe it is in some cases, because you kind of want to play both an open and a closed. Kind of weird. But yeah, d5 and d4. And you can see this is a kind of open and closed Sicilian at the same time, with both knights out. This is probably I think it's called the traditional line. I'm not 100% sure on what it's called. Yeah, but this is nice white, nicely developed pieces in the centre, whereas black kind of bishops are behind the pawns. But it's actually equal in terms of position. Quite funny. Knight f6, and here's the first mistake of the game, or the first inaccuracy. Taking on c4 and having this very similar setup to the Sicilian, where you have the knights on the diagonal here, on the long diagonal. And then if you want to play a dragon, you could play this, get the bishop out, and you get a very similar idea to the Sicilian. And then, this bishop e7 is slightly better. The bishop on c7 is slightly better because it has a slightly longer scope than it would do on g7. Instead, knight f6 is played, and the idea is probably to develop pieces, maybe go here on g4, not 100% sure, because there's not any threat really. d5, yeah, and d5 kicks knight away. Possible moves could be knight to a5, attacking the bishop, that's possible. Knight to e5, again attacking the bishop, that's also possible. And they're the two most active ones, but you could also go back. I wouldn't really recommend going back in this case though. My opponent plays knight to e5. Very similar. Like I said, it's attacking the bishop. You should play knight a5 just because it can't be taken by the knight. And then you'd have this kind of move order. You want to play a6 because the idea is to not... you want to try and keep the king in a castleable position. Because then you could play bishop e7 and castle. That's why I have to play very specifically with black, otherwise it's very dangerous. Yeah. So knight e5, but it can be taken by this knight, which is what happens. And from this mistake, this is from equal to plus 1.4, and then it gets worse, plus 2, plus 2.1, and then we get d takes, and now black has a doubled pawn, and only two doubled centre pawns. Not that good really. f4 is played, and the computer recommends this line, which I found quite funny. Bishop to e7 was played. We could have also played takes and takes, but yeah, it's still losing. Bishop e7 is bad, and why is bishop e7 bad? Well, it's easy, because of f takes. And then this knight has to move wherever, and it can't move towards any of these two squares because the queen will take. So it has to go back either to d7 or to g8. And now we just take the pawn, get triple pawns, and now we just go on the offensive. And what's funny is bishop to h6 is the best computer move. And I find it quite hilarious. The idea is if you take, then you actually have this checkmate here, or a really strong attack where black actually has to sacrifice material back in order to stabilize the position. However, it is plus 13 because this pawn's going to promote. I don't think you can stop it promoting. Yeah, so that was a fun line I saw in the computer found. I didn't see in the game though. We have f5 is played, and e takes f5, and it goes from plus 4.5 to negative 0.5, which is quite interesting. So this is a blunder, even though it seems relatively good. It's because you're overextending your pawns. They're too far forward in this case. We have e takes an f5, e takes an f5 and bishop takes an f5, and now black's up a pawn, which is quite nice. Bishop d5, castles, and queen f3. And these are all nice moves so far. Queen f3 is a mistake because of bishop takes. I should have played d6 instead. And what's the idea behind d6, do you think? Well, it's to kind of try and open up the position slightly, because you have takes and trade. You can trade off queens and castle and attack the bishop and kind of go for this pawn here in the center, black center pawn. And these pawns are going to drop off because they're so weak. So yeah, that's the idea. I played queen f3, attacking the bishop instead, but I missed that the bishop could take on c2. And now I play another silly move, bishop to d3, and it goes from -3. So apparently this was from -1 to -3. Goes from -3 to -8. Very silly. I don't know how this is calculated, because it's because after this move I actually lose a piece, and yeah, if I had been a little bit more patient with my planning, I could have gotten to this position where this bishop's in my territory but it's not defended, so I can attack it quite easily. It's quite nice. But that's not what happened. But what happened is bishop to d3, and after takes, you have e4, wanting to kick away the queen. And here I make another mistake. Knight takes e4. Why is knight takes e4 a mistake? Well, let's talk about what was correct first. Queen g3 seems correct. After knight takes d5, now black's kind of attacking two pieces because it's the discovery attack. And if he takes and black takes back, and actually black's now up 2 pawns, so 3 pawns. So yeah, that's dangerous. But taking is bad because knight takes. And now you can take here, of course. Well, you can't take here. You've actually lost a piece here because you're thinking that it's nice in here. Well, we can just take back, can't you? Now it's equal. But now this bishop it's not defended, so it can be taken. And if I had taken here first, the queen would have taken back, and now the knight's defended. This is a kind of really cool tactic. But yeah, queen takes e4, bishop takes g5. Bishop takes g5, now black's up a minor piece and a pawn. With castles, I'm trying to get the rook into the centre and make the king safe. Rook e8, attacking the queen. Queen to f5. And queen to f6. It could also bishop to f6 could also be played. And the idea is to stop white's taking on f7, because that would be quite disastrous for black. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's not really an attack there, but it still looks quite dangerous. But yeah, queen f6 is played, and queen d3. Not wanting to trade off queens. However, there's a mistake made here, and I thought it was a discovery attack. However, I missed the intermediate move, the queen to d4 check. The idea is to move the queen out of the way of the attack, and also give a check, meaning I have to take back, otherwise I lose my queen. So there's a very interesting line here with the computer suggests d6, and after this check, you black trades with queens on black stamps, but then you defend the pawn with the rook. And although this is going to still lose the pawn at some point, it's actually slightly more active because then you can get your rooks doubled on the file. attacking the bishop. It's very strong. You do have to be careful of back rank checkmates though, because your king is now behind your own pawns, but it does look quite nice, even though it is losing quite a bit. Okay, so we have queen to d3, and we have this check. So queen takes and c takes, very normal stuff, and rook e to f1. The idea is to trade off rooks to get the open file. You want black to play, and then you can take, and then you can get the open file, and then put the rook on one of these squares, or maybe defend at the back, something like that, and then you would win a pawn. However, rook takes, and rook d8. And now, if you defend the pawn with, if you defend the pawn with rook to e5, you get f6. b4 was played, and b4 is not a good move, but it's not the worst move because it's resignable here for white. It's actually better to play h4. Well, this is a really silly line in computer suggest actually. h4, bishop to h4, and then rook d1. You'd think playing h4, maybe you would go rook to e4, attacking the bishop and the pawn, kind of like a fork. Yeah, but rook to d1, and rook takes, and this is a very interesting line, because now the bishop's on a shorter diagonal. I don't know if that's relevant in this case, but it's a very interesting line the computer suggested. But yeah, b4. We have king f8. It's kind of slow. The computer suggests probably taking the pawn first. And a rook e5. Now the pawn's protected. Rook d1 slightly better because your rook's behind the pawn, but the opponent's still going to take your pawn no matter what. So dangerous. Rook e5, and we have f6. d3 is better here because white cannot stop the pawn. You might be thinking, but can't white stop the pawn with the king? Nope, because you're out of time. Let's see. Yeah, you'll be out of time, and this is quite funny because black sacrifices the bishop, and that's mate in 9. I'm not going to go to this mate in 9, but it's a very simple mate in 9 with the bishop and the rook, and we just bring the king down. Very simple stuff, this one. f6, rook e1. Going back onto the first rank, actually the best computer move. f5 isn't playable actually because of g6, and then your rooks can't stay protecting the pawn. That's why rook e1 is the best move here. And we have rook takes, losing a pawn. Now black's 5 points of material up, but on the evaluation it's -10. Rook to d1, attacking the pawn kind of, is defended. King e7, activating the king. d3 is better to play here, again, because for some reason this move order is slightly better in terms of activity, because you're kind of wanting to kick the bishop out, I think, or move the bishop back, something like that. I couldn't tell you why this exact move order is better than this move order, but it's probably because something. Yeah, I have no idea. Computer just likes it better. I play a4. It's better to play rook to d3 here, just to stop the pawn advancing. King d6, and here I play a big mistake. You can see all of these 3 squares, 1, 2, 3, are protected by the pawns, so the king can't go here. However, I play b5, and now the king can come to c5. King f2 is slightly better because of king activity, and then the pawn just march down the board. And interestingly, it's better to play a5 instead of b5. And this is because the bishop's a dark squared bishop, meaning if I play b5, it would attack my pawn quite easily. However, a5 doesn't allow attack on the pawn as easily as b5 would. Yeah, so after b5, there's king to c5. It's better to play this check first and get the king in the centre, and then go for the pawn progression, and then you want to promote afterwards. So it's slightly why that's why this line's better. It's plus negative 13. King c5, and I play rook to b1, protecting the b4 square from the king coming down, gobbling my pawn. However, now it's a defensive rook, and I have to be careful of the pawn promoting, which is what my opponent wants to do. d3, g3. It's better to play king f2, trying to stop this pawn. However, it doesn't really matter in this case because it's completely lost. g3, d2, rook d1. Rook d1 is stopping the pawn promoting. However, it does allow king to b4, which is what my opponent plays. h4, attacking bishop. King g2 is slightly better just because it stops this check. You're still going to lose the pawn anyway. h4, bishop to e3 check, and then king to f1. For some reason the computer likes king g2 better. I have no idea why, because they look the same to me, but I played king f1. Rook to d3, wanting to protect the bishop from any king attack. King to c3 is actually slightly better. Just because it stops this attack anyway. Because this attack this isn't now an attack, so that's why it stops it. And then you could just block these pawns, block this pawn, and you're winning with black. But yeah, rook d3 is played, king e2, and now king c3 is played. It's actually it's mate in a few moves. It's negative 62 on the evaluation bar, and after a5, it's mate in 14. King f3 is the best move instead of a5, just because you want to activate your king slightly better, but this pawn's going to promote. You're going to be down too much material. Yeah, you're not going to win this with white, even if you are a grandmaster. a5 is played. However, this weakens the b5 square. Yeah, that's what it does. h5 stopping h5 from white, and also stopping g4. There's a quite long line, mate in 11, and we're going to say after this long line, I'll just show you the line. I won't talk about it that much because it's just quite a common mating idea. Trapping the king in the corner, and moving the rook and the bishop, and now having kind of back corner mate, quite fun, or mate on the sideline. Very interesting. But it's a very common mate, so it's nothing really special here. h5, and we have b6, and again it's mate in 13 if black can find the right responses. a6 is slightly better again, just because you don't have this target with the bishop. However, b6, you can now see this is targeted. So after takes, and g5, we can now see two things are being targeted by black. So after h takes and f takes on d5, we have g4 from white, and we have h4 from black. Black's wanting to go for another promotion. King f3, wanting to stop the promotion, possibly. However, this is a mistake, because you just lose the pawn. Well, you can't really prevent losing the pawn. Maybe you could have played rook to b1, but then he was lost the rook, so you can't prevent the pawn being taken. King back to e2, a very interesting move here. The idea is to stop any idea of king c2. Kicking the rook away. Rook e3 check, mate in 6 in this case. King f1 and king c2. Yeah, I missed this kind of intermediate check. I missed because now black looks like it's going to win material. And after rook a1, my opponent plays not the best move, h3. And it's quite funny. There's this nice little fork trick here. You might think, but promotion fork, you actually fork the king and the rook, because if the rook takes, king takes, and you lose, and you're just down the rook. mate in 4, it goes so like this, and your back rank checkmated. Very fun fork idea there. But h3 is played, and now it's still mate in 6. Black just had to find the right response. And we have rook a2 check, king c3. Other ideas black could have played is king d3, wanting to go round the corner, and it's still mate in 5. You'd have kind of this response, because if you move the king, then black has time to promote, like so. If you play another check, the king just runs around, and you get mated. And actually, this position here, after rook e1 check, the king's actually being checked by the bishop and the rook, meaning you actually lose the rook on the a on the e1. It's quite fun because it's a discovered attack. I quite like it. Very cool tactic. And it's also back rank, and it's also side rank checkmate on a couple of moves after. It's quite funny, quite fun line. Yeah, but h3 is played, and we have rook a2 check, king c3, and rook a3 check, king d4, rook a4 check, king to e5. And I was also going through this analysis again. I kind of wondered why my opponent played this move, because it seems not aggressive enough. You want to go for the checkmate, I think. Still mate in 6, by the way. So there's M on the evaluation bar, meaning white's completely lost if black can find the winning combination. And what's quite funny is you can actually sacrifice the pawn here. Because after pawn takes, the king, the h pawn comes down and you can't stop it promoting. So you can sacrifice something here. However, h2 is played, and now it's mate in 5. Ooh, it gets spanned in Dutch. It gets a little bit crazy. It gets a little bit hard to play. King e4 is better, just because you want to get the king back into the action, possibly taking the pawn or something like that. As long as rook's defended by the bishop. But h2 is played, wanting to promote the pawn, and king f2. King g2 is better, slightly, just because it's mate in 5 and not mate in 4, I think. Oh, no, they're both mate in 5, so they're both quite bad. Yeah, and you can see it's mate in 3 after this. It's very, very easy stuff. Yeah, but it's very, very common, so I won't show it. Rook a3 check, and this fun move. This is a really great move. So I mentioned the discovered attack on the G square on G1, but now on the king's on F2, and there's still the discovered attack. My opponent plays rook a3 check. Check from the bishop, and I'm going to lose the rook. King e2, and rook takes a1. King takes d2, queens on h1, king c2, queen d1, king c3, queen d4 check. And it's actually better in this case to play bishop a5 check, because it's mate in 1, instead of mate in 2. King back to c2. There's also king b3 as an option, but yeah, it's still mate. And rook a2, rook a2 check, king to b1, and queen b2 checkmate. You could also play this as a really silly line. King b3, instead of being mate in 1, it's a mate in 2. Okay, that's interesting. Could have also gone to c1 as well. And after c1, you have to mate in 1, background mate. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Yeah, it was a very interesting video. I think the main take back of this video is from the loss of too many pieces. For instance, here this is so dangerous you can't really stop it. But yeah, so stop any passed pawns. There's try and keep your pawns. Try and keep as much material on the board as you can here, because you're down material. You don't want to trade off, because your opponent will still be winning, and it's actually better to not trade material off if we're down material. Yeah, look out for intermediate moves, any checks or tactics the opponent has. Yeah, and also don't just take things for the sake of taking things. You have to be a little bit more mindful of what you do, because this led to a loss of a minor piece. I think otherwise than that, possibly it went good. My opponent made a couple of mistakes in the opening. That's why I got the winning hand in the opening. However, I blundered a piece. Yeah, I think this opening line I should probably learn, because I've had it in a couple of games now. Yeah, because you can see this is quite a nice opening style. Yeah, I haven't learned the full combinations that can be played, so I should probably do that. Yeah, but thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video when we cover some more, probably of my first season. So now we're going from the 4th back to the 1st, right? Just like I did in Star Wars, actually. Yeah, no, we got loads from the 1st, so I'm going to cover all of them. Some of them are really short, some of them are slightly longer than others. This is going to be fun. Have fun, guys. See you in the next video.